I'll just take off my mask and let my glasses not fog up, and then I'll get to it. Are you ready for another story tonight? I think you'll like this one. It's about Cecil. Throughout the Christian world, each year in December, thousands of nativity scenes appear, and they are all similar. The Holy Family with the Christ child, the shepherds and the sheep, sometimes one or more angels, and always 3 wise men and their camels. One of the camels is slightly larger than the other 2, although almost no one knows that the camel is named Cecil. Cecil, the son of Caleb, son of Cyril, son of Cornelius, was born a very small camel on a very cold February night. His mother Colantha and his father Caleb were part of a large caravan crossing the Dashti Kavir, or salt desert of northern Persia. The caravan had stopped that night in a small group of sandhills in the open desert. The sky was clear, and thousands of stars were overhead. Caleb, who was the lead camel of the caravan, was proud, and Colantha, who carried a load in addition to her child, was happy. Cecil was content to be fed, to be part of a family and a world. The caravan with Cecil made it to the town of Qum the next day by noon. Cecil experienced the bright desert sun overhead and the sand under his feet for the first time. In the city of Qum, the caravan rested. Goods were sold and traded in the bazaar. During their days of rest, Caleb explained to Cecil that he was descended from a long line of lead camels, camels that led caravans across the salt desert. Caleb was bigger and stronger and smarter than most camels. He knew each hill of the route between Kashmir and Qum, the exact location of the main oases, and how to find his way at night by the stars. Cecil would learn. And Cecil did learn. On the way back to Kashmir, 400 miles across the desert, Cecil walked with very little help from his mother. Cecil learned and grew and was soon carrying trade goods on his own. Silk, spices, silver, and jewels to the west. Wool, woven carpets, iron, and wheat to the east. Cecil grew to be larger than most camels. Finally, Cecil, the son of Caleb, son of Cyril, son of Cornelius, left his home caravan and mother and father and was sold in the bazaars of Qum to a caravan owner. Cecil became the lead camel for his new owner. One day, Cecil was sold again and soon became the lead camel of an even larger caravans that traveled west of Qum to Babylon. There were new hills and new oases to be learned, but the stars were the same. All was well for Cecil in his new life. All was well until the sandstorm started shortly after noon on that August day. The caravan was very near an oasis, but the sandstorm was a harsh one. The caravan formed a small circle of men and packs and camels and waited. Cecil had been in many sandstorms before. There was no sun. There were no stars. Even the desert floor changed and was changing with each hour of the storm. Cecil walked and led. He remembered the pattern of scattered rocks on the trail. He opened his eyes every 10 steps and looked for the rocks. Each time he opened his eyes, they were scoured by the blowing sands. Cecil shut his lids as fast as he could, and he blinked, and his eyes watered. But each time, Cecil's vision was worse. After 5 hours, Cecil saw the dim outline of a palm tree 5 feet in front of him. The oasis was found, and the caravan was saved. 2 days later, the sandstorm had stopped, and the caravan left the oasis. Across the remaining desert to Qum it went. In Qum, Cecil was a hero. His owner praised him and told everyone how Cecil had led them through the sandstorm to the oasis. The only other caravan caught in the open desert at the time of the storm had perished. Cecil was given the best food and slept in a stall near the bazaar. It was a time of festival, and the bazaar was colorful in gold and red and blue. Cecil saw none of this because Cecil was now almost blind. Oh, that's sad. Cecil stayed in his stall by the bazaar when his caravan went out on its next trip to Babylon and was well taken care of. When the caravan returned, Cecil was still blind. On the next caravan out of Qum, Cecil carried a load, but he did not lead. He was tied to another camel. Cecil was not happy, but he was a very faithful camel, and he did his job. Months passed, years passed. Cecil's owner grew old. Cecil was sold again, his heroic saving of the caravan in the sandstorm forgotten. He was sold to an astronomer who lived in Isfahan in the south. Cecil was chosen because he was large and strong and gentle. Most of the trips his new master went on were short trips into and out of Isfahan. Cecil was guided with reins, and if he occasionally stumbled on the rocks he could not see, he recovered quickly. Cecil became happy again. If he was no longer a lead camel and could not see, he led an ordered life that was not harsh. Then one cold December night his master, Balthazar, saw the rising of a new star and was filled with awe. Old records were consulted. Soon Cecil was saddled and loaded for a long trip. The star was bright enough that Cecil could faintly see it through his scarred eyes. Cecil and Balthazar set out in the direction of the star. They were joined by 2 other astronomers who had also seen the star and were following in its direction. Cecil and Balthazar brought up the rear as they traveled from the east. Cecil felt the majesty of the adventure. The 3 wise men were quiet as they traveled by night, following the star, and rested by day. They came to Jerusalem, and then to a small town nearby. Cecil sensed the journey was coming to an end. In Bethlehem, a small town, they found their way to a stable on the edge of town. There the 3 astronomers, Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, stopped. Cecil could smell the sweet hay and was aware of the other animals and humans. His master and the others opened some of their packs, and the smells of frankincense and myrrh blended with the other smells. Cecil's sense of smell was very good, and so was his hearing. The animals were all silent, and the humans kept their voices low, and there was awe and wonder in them. Cecil lay down. He could feel a soft glow, and soon realized that a small child was the center of all the attention. Cecil brought his head over to where the child lay. Cecil felt a small hand reach out and touch his nose, and then it touched his left eye, and then his right eye. His eyes burned and filled with tears. The tears fell, and the whole scene came into focus for Cecil. Cecil, who had not seen for many years, saw before him a small child wrapped in layers of cloth. A man and a woman were on either side. His master and his 2 friends were on the other side, kneeling and opening their gifts. Overhead, the new star shone in silent glory. Cecil could see. The small hand reached out for Cecil's face again. Cecil nuzzled, then licked the tiny hand. Cecil was filled with happiness. He put down his head beside the manger, and he slept. The trip home was glorious. Cecil could see. The world was clear. Each rock, each tree, each village was sharp and beautiful. Cecil led the small group. He was lead camel once more. Each year at Christmas time, churches and homes throughout the world put out their nativity scenes. Part of each nativity set is 3 wise men and their camels, and one of the camels is always a little larger than the other 2, and that camel is Cecil. I hope you enjoyed that story, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Good evening. I hope you're having fun. I hope you're enjoying our stories. This next story is called Bright Christmas, An Angel Remembers. I have always been an angel. Always. I've never needed a clock or a calendar, because here where I live, there's no really time at all. I guess it's strange for me to remember a certain night, but I do remember, because that night was different from all the others, ever. That night, the great truth came to the earth once and for all. People sometimes think that Christmas came suddenly, one holy night. I know better. Other things came first. Amazing things, beautiful things, important things, and I saw them all, because when a message goes from heaven to earth, it's not a letter, it's an angel. And the angel doesn't just carry the message, the angel is the message. We had brought light and truth to the earth before that night. Why? Earth needed to be ready. We sang to Moses, and then Moses was given commandments and brought that great truth closer. We sang to David, and when David saw the great truth would come to earth through his own family, he sang too, psalm after psalm after psalm. We sang to Isaiah, and Isaiah saw that great truth would come as a child. He would be called the Prince of Peace, Wonderful Counselor. But still the earth seemed dark and far away until that night. That night a light was lit like no other. I remember the star in the sky above Bethlehem, all the songs and messages we had ever brought to earth. They all led up to that one night, and they lit up the sky. We were watching over Joseph and his wife when the innkeeper sent them away. We knew where they were going. We knew they would be safe and warm in the quiet of the stable. In the hills above Bethlehem, I remember the faces of the shepherds looking up. It was time for the great truth to shine on the earth. Nothing could have stopped it, and nothing could have kept us from singing about it. And sing we did. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And nothing could have kept those shepherds from walking through the night to see the child. We lit the path, and like sheep that have been lost, the shepherds found their way. And Mary, I will always remember her face when she heard us sing. Mary knew that this child, laid in a manger, would be bringing the great truth. She knew it in her heart, and it shone on her face that night. Earth now had a heavenly light of its own, and it made me sing louder and sweeter. Our song was like the smile of God, and the light and the music and the angels were the same thing. And Jesus smiled too. The light shone in the darkness, and there was no night there. I remember. Here, where we live, there's no real time at all. It's just now, a day in heaven, and right now, in the day in heaven, it is still that first Christmas night. Once I sing a song, the song never stops. It's like a star that burns forever. Christmas is the brightest and the happiest song I ever sang. The star is still shining, and I am still singing, and the earth is still singing back. Isn't that a lovely one? I like that one. I hope you did too. Good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hi, Christmas is getting closer. I hope you're ready for our story tonight. It's called The Christmas Rose, and I think you can see them around if you look. Legends and stories from the earliest times, told and retold, tell us that long, long ago, the stars sent messages to men on earth. But as time passed, the stars became silent, for men no longer understood their language. The 3 wise men who traveled to Bethlehem to worship the newborn Christ child still understood a little of the language of the stars. A few privileged others also heard a little of what the stars had to say. One of these humble shepherdesses was named Joanna. How she loved to watch the movement of the stars through the long nights as she tended her sheep on a hillside near Bethlehem. She listened to the messages of the stars, and she learned many things. Sometimes she heard their names, not the names known to learned men, but their real, true names, the heavenly names that star angels call each other. Now for some time Joanna had observed something new and strange happening in the winter sky. From far away, a warm and radiant light had begun to shine. It was the light of a star, which grew brighter and brighter as each night it moved closer and closer to the earth, until it seemed to fill the entire sky as it hovered over the town of Bethlehem. Joanna yearned to know what was happening and asked the star to tell her. The star did not answer. As her yearning grew, she begged the star to tell her, but still the star was silent. Then one night, as she sat watching, she opened her heart in love and wonder and prayed with all her might. Star of wonder, star of light, radiant star that shines so bright, I pray you may, I pray you might, speak to me this wondrous night. Suddenly, a ray of light came down to Joanna with a shimmering message from the angel who lived within the star. The Son of God is born upon the earth, little Joanna. I have come to light a pathway for those who, like you, have an open heart to understand what they see and hear. Follow me, and I will lead you to the Holy Child. Joanna, her face aglow, rose to follow the star. Then tears came into her eyes. I have nothing to bring with me, she cried. The Son of God must have a gift of greeting. Oh, do not weep, little shepherdess. Take as your gift these greetings from all the stars. And at once with the message, rays of starlight streamed down from the heavens, and where they touched the cold winter earth, star-shaped blossoms sprang forth. Joyfully, Joanna gathered the blossoms and followed the star rays as they led her on to the town of Bethlehem and to a humble stable. Mary was holding the Holy Child in her arms as the gentle shepherdess entered. We have been waiting for you, Joanna, Mary said. Come, bring your precious flowers so that my son may remember the gift of joy of the star world while he is here on earth. And as Joanna knelt in rapture and offered the blossoms to baby Jesus, he looked at her with a radiant smile and reached out. As his fingers touched the blossoms, gold centers formed within the flowers, and the Christmas rose came into being. And it blooms each year in the cold of winter to remind us of the star gift brought by the little shepherdess nearly 2,000 years ago. That's a nice story, too. I like that one. Have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. Good evening. Are you ready for the next story? I sure am. This story is called A Christmas Gift for the General, and it actually takes place in America. Yay! We get an American story. That's unusual. It was the year 1776, and the day was December 25th. What an awful Christmas, thought Kennett. It's bad enough having King George's Hessian soldiers quartered here in Trenton. But now everyone says that General Washington is going to lose the war because our soldiers are so cold and hungry. Careful not to awaken his grandfather, who was dozing by the fire, Kennett opened the kitchen door and slipped outside. With his faithful dog Toby at his side, he ran along the New Jersey shore of the ice-choked Delaware River until he reached an old boat shed. The shed held Kennett's treasure, a roomy, iron-keeled boat named the Madcap. Kennett waited inside the boat shed until he heard a low whistle, a special signal. Then he cautiously unlocked the door, and in came a ragged but proud-looking stranger whom he had met in the woods only the day before. "So you did come," the man said gratefully. "Of course," Kennett replied, "and I've brought food for you, as I promised." "You didn't mention to anyone that you saw me?" the man asked anxiously. "Oh, no, not even to my grandfather." "Good. So much depends on it." Unable to resist any longer, Kennett boldly asked, "Are you a soldier? My father is a soldier with General Washington, and I'd like to believe that today, on Christmas Day, someone is helping him. I wish that—" Kennett stopped, for his dog Toby had begun to bristle and growl. Then suddenly came a sharp pounding on the door, and a voice commanded, "Open! Open in the king's name!" Quickly the stranger leapt into Kennett's boat and pulled the canvas to cover him. Kennett unlocked the door, and a Hessian soldier burst in. "What are you doing here, boy?" the soldier demanded. "Who is with you?" No one," stammered Kennett. "You're lying. I heard someone's voice." The Hessian took hold of Kennett and shook him fiercely. With a growl, Toby rushed at the enemy and sank his teeth into the soldier's leg. At that moment the ragged stranger leapt from his hiding place and with one blow knocked the Hessian unconscious. As the stranger bound and gagged the soldier, he said, "It will take some time for the Hessian to get loose. You must go home at once, and I must continue on." "Wait a minute. Whose boat is this?" "The Madcap." Kennett hesitated. "Why, she's mine." "Then sell her to me," the man said urgently. "I can't explain, but I've got to have this boat." Kennett's heart sank. Sell the Madcap? How could he? He loved that boat. Yes, he looked hard at the gallant, determined stranger, and he swallowed the lump in his throat and said, "You may take my boat. I cannot sell it. I give her to you as a Christmas gift." Together they launched the boat, and the stranger jumped aboard. "I'll tell you this, Kennett," he said. "Your Christmas gift is not for me. It is for a great man who decides your fate, and mine, and all America's. This gift will be delivered to him." On December 26, 1776, the Hessian troops in Trenton, New Jersey, surrendered to General George Washington and his men. On the following morning, Grandfather told Kennett, "It was incredible. They say they crossed the Delaware in small boats. They say that one of General Washington's officers had been here for days, getting the boats by one means or another." Kennett's heart raced. His Madcap, he knew, was one of those boats. What if General Washington himself had been riding to victory in Kennett's very own boat? "Yep, the tide has turned," said Grandfather, "and now we will win." "How lucky I am," thought Kennett gratefully. "I've been able to give a Christmas gift for the General, for America, and for freedom." Hope you enjoyed that one. I'll see you tomorrow night. Hi, and welcome. Are you ready for your story tonight? I love this one. It's very sweet. It's called Piccola. Little Piccolo's heart was always warm and cheerful. Lovingly she sang as she helped her mother in their stone cottage. She scoured the pots and pans, and she tended the geraniums that bloomed in the windows. She dragged great armfuls of wood for the fire, made the fire, and scrubbed the floors. "My Piccola is busy as the bee," said her mother. "My Piccola is as joyous as the lark," said her father. Piccola brought laughter to the family, even through the many long winter evenings when none of them had had quite enough to eat. Hard times had come to the family in their small village by the sea-coast. Piccola's father, a fisherman, had been very ill and could not go to sea, and her mother struggled to feed her family through that long, hard winter. In spite of all the hardships, Piccola's faith remained strong. "Spring will come for us," she would say, "and summer too, and then, dear Papa, you will be well and strong again." As the weeks slipped by and the family's little store of money grew smaller and smaller, Piccola's laughter still rang through their cottage, and when the holidays came she cried out, "Oh, how I do love Christmas!" "Dearest Piccola," said her father sadly, "you know that this year we are so poor that we cannot even a single gift for you." Piccola heard what he said, but did not doubt that something beautiful must befall each and every child upon Christmas Day. On the night before Christmas, after Piccola had finished her work, she seized her father and her mother's hands. "Let's go out and share the Christmas joy," she pleaded. So they left their own small dark cottage and went into the village. Throughout the village and in each cottage all the windows were decorated for Christmas and ablaze with candlelight. So close to the street were the little stone houses that in each one Piccola and her mother and father could see and hear the happiness of Christmas cheer within. "Every house but ours is joyous," sighed the father. But Piccola did not even hear him. She was laughing, and her eyes sparkled with joy. "How rich we are," she said, "for all the ornaments and cheer in each door and window are ours to enjoy." When at last they returned to their cottage, Piccola kissed her parents good night and said, "Now I shall set out my shoe for my Christmas gift." "Oh, Piccola," cried her mother almost in tears, "there can be no gift for you this year." Even so, Piccola's small wooden shoe was set by the fireplace, and they all went off to bed. Full of faith as always, Piccola awoke with the gray dawn and crept quietly to the fireplace to look into her shoe for her Christmas gift. "Father, Mother, come quickly," she cried. "Look, see what the good St. Nicholas has brought." And there, in Piccola's little wooden shoe, was a tiny, shivering baby bird. "It probably fell out of the nest down the chimney into her shoe," remarked her father. Piccola paid no heed. The baby bird had come to her as her Christmas gift, she knew, and her joy was so full as she cuddled and warmed and fed the little tiny bird that soon her father and mother caught her joyful spirit, and they were warm and became happy too. So Christmas came to Piccola, rich and full, because the spirit of Christmas is always in her heart. Children, the story I tell to you of Piccola sweet and her bird is true. In the far-off land of France, they say, her spirit lives to this very day. I hope you enjoyed that one, and I hope tomorrow you notice all the beautiful Christmas lights that are around our town, and they're full of joy, and they're ours, and they're free to enjoy, and for everyone. So take a look at what everyone has done to spread the joy of Christmas. I hope you spread the joy of Christmas too. Good night. Welcome! Are you ready for the story tonight? It's actually a true story also. So I hope you really